Star Trek, Picard's Elnor and what happened to the forgotten Romulan hero explained. Evan Evagora's Elnor played a significant role in Star Trek, Picard Season 1, but the young Romulan appeared to have been forgotten by the show's third season. Prior to the events of Star Trek, Picard Season 1, the Romulan sun had gone supernova, prompting Starfleet to mount a massive evacuation mission led by Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart. When rogue synths attacked Mars and destroyed the fleet of rescue ships, Starfleet stopped aiding in the evacuation. Disgusted that Starfleet would halt such an important rescue mission, Picard resigned in protest, hoping that the Starfleet hires would change their minds. Instead, Starfleet accepted Picard's resignation, and he found himself facing retirement at his family's French vineyard. Retirement did not quite suit Picard, and Jean-Luc found himself caught up in another adventure when an android woman named Dodge, Issa Briones, showed up on his doorstep. Turned away by Starfleet, Picard recruited a new motley crew, as several old friends joined Jean-Luc on his new mission to find Dodge's twin sister, Soji. Raffi Musiker, Michelle Hurd, who had worked with Picard on the Romulan evacuation mission, reluctantly joined Picard's cause, as did Elnor, a young Romulan warrior Picard had grown close to. Evan Evagora played Elnor in Star Trek Picard. Elnor, Ian Nunney, was a child when the Romulan sun went supernova, and he was taken to Vashti with many of the other Romulan refugees. The sect of Romulan warrior nuns known as the Coet Malat took Elnor in and soon began training him in their ways. Admiral Picard aided the Romulan evacuation, and he made frequent stops at Vashti and became a mentor and father figure to Elnor. Picard shared stories of his adventures with Elnor, brought the young boy gifts, and even taught him how to fence. Having been raised with the Coet Malat philosophy of absolute candor, Elnor was honest to a fault, sometimes sharing his thoughts and feelings a bit too freely. Although Elnor grew into a formidable warrior, he remained naive and somewhat awkward due to his sheltered upbringing. Still, Elnor was a genuinely good person who cared deeply about his friends and was willing to put his own life in danger to protect them. Australian-born actor Evan Evagora began his acting career in 2019 with Star Trek, Picard as one of his first major roles. Evagora appeared in Blumhouse's Fantasy Island in 2020 and one episode of the Australian soap opera Home and Away in 2021. Evagora also did voice-over and motion capture work for the 2022 video game The Quarry, in which he portrayed one of the 9 main protagonists named Nicholas Forcillo. Admiral Picard returned to Vashti in 2399, seeking help from the Coet Malat with his mission to find and protect Soji. Now an adult, Elnor was frustrated and disappointed that Picard had abandoned him as a boy, but he bound himself to Picard's mission. Elnor protected Picard and his friends from attacking Romulans on the Borg cube known as the Artifact, covering their retreat, and later contacting 7 of 9, Jerry Ryan, for help. In Star Trek, Picard Season 2, Elnor became the first full-blooded Romulan to attend Starfleet Academy and was eventually assigned to the USS Excelsior alongside Commander Raffi Musiker. In the rich tapestry of characters introduced in Star Trek Picard, one of the most fascinating yet underutilized figures is Elnor, the young Romulan warrior raised in the ancient ways of the Coet Malat. Despite his compelling introduction and early involvement in Picard's journey, Elnor's character seems to have been sidelined as the series progressed, leaving many fans wondering what happened to this forgotten Romulan hero. Elnor first appears in Star Trek Picard Season 1, where he immediately stands out due to his unique background and relationship with Jean-Luc Picard. As a Romulan orphan raised by the all-female sect of warrior nuns known as the Coet Malat, Elnor is trained in a discipline called absolute candor, a philosophy of complete emotional honesty and loyalty. This sets him apart not only from other Romulans, who are often depicted as secretive and manipulative, but from much of Starfleet, which values discipline and diplomacy over emotional transparency. His ability to wield a sword with great skill, despite being in a world of phasers and advanced technology, further emphasizes his distinctiveness. Elnor's early interactions with Picard reveal a deep, almost familial bond. Jean-Luc had promised to look after Elnor when he was a child, following the destruction of Romulus, but ultimately failed to keep that promise due to the collapse of the Federation's Romulan rescue efforts. Elnor's sense of abandonment, combined with his intense training under the Coat Malat, brings complexity to their relationship. When Picard returns to Elnor years later, seeking his help on a dangerous mission, the young Romulan is initially resentful, but his loyalty to Picard eventually wins out. The introduction of Elnor seemed to promise a rich, ongoing story arc. His swordsmanship, unwavering loyalty, and refreshing honesty positioned him as a character with a lot of potential, both as a fighter and as a moral anchor for the crew. However, as Picard progressed into its second season, Elnor's role diminished significantly, leaving fans to speculate on why such a promising character was sidelined. In Star Trek, Picard Season 2, Elnor's absence becomes more pronounced. Although he initially joins the crew of the USS La Sirena, he is severely injured early in the season during a skirmish with the Confederation, an alternate reality version of the Federation. This injury leads to his death in the alternate timeline, and while this death is later reversed, it signals a marked reduction in his narrative significance. Elnor's sidelining in Season 2 felt abrupt, especially considering his close ties to Picard and his importance in Season 1. One reason for Elnor's diminished presence could be narrative focus. Season 2 of Picard shifted its attention to exploring Jean-Luc's traumatic past, particularly his relationship with his mother and the lingering effects of that trauma on his ability to connect with others. The season also delved into the story of the Borg Queen and the time travel plotline involving a fascist alternate timeline. In such a packed narrative, it's possible that Elnor's character simply didn't fit into the storylines the writers wanted to explore, leading to his reduced role. Another potential explanation for Elnor's sidelining could be tied to the thematic direction of the show. Picard is, at its core, a story about second chances, aging, and legacy. Much of the narrative revolves around Picard confronting his past mistakes and making peace with the choices he has made. Characters like Raffi, Seven of Nine, and even Soji play key roles in reflecting different aspects of Picard's legacy. Elnor, while important in Season 1, might not have fit as seamlessly into the more introspective, psychological exploration of Picard's character in later episodes. Despite his reduced presence, Elnor's return to life at the end of Season 2 suggests that his story isn't over. The writers could be setting him up for a more substantial role in Picard's third and final season, or perhaps in a future Star Trek project. His resurrection in the correct timeline leaves open the possibility of his continued involvement in the broader Star Trek universe, whether on screen or in extended media like novels or comics. Moreover, Elnor's background as a Coat Malat trained warrior still offers fertile ground for storytelling. The Coat Malat, with their adherence to absolute candor and their willingness to fight for lost causes, are an intriguing concept that could be explored in greater depth. Elnor's struggles with his Romulan identity, his feelings of abandonment by Picard, and his place in a galaxy still coming to terms with the fallout from the Romulan supernova all provide rich narrative potential. In conclusion, while Elnor may have felt like the forgotten Romulan hero of Star Trek Picard, his story is far from over. The decision to minimize his role in Season 2 likely stemmed from the show's focus on other narrative threads, but the character's unique qualities ensure that he remains a fan favorite. Whether in Picard's final season or in future Star Trek adventures, there's hope that Elnor will once again take up his sword, ready to fight for the lost causes that define both his people and his personal journey.